She slept with a bear every night. The shocking truth will leave you speechless. They said it was a very beautiful village. The people of the village made their living by farming. At that time, there were no mobile phones or TV in the village. Even in the city, very few people had such things. In this village, there were two girls who lived there. Both had a deep friendship. They both had grown up together since childhood in that very village. One friend's name was Zuri, and the other's name was Amani. The people of that village were simple and innocent. The girls of that village also worked in the fields. Sometimes they would pick vegetables from someone's field, or they would cut wheat. There were many such tasks that the girls would do together in the fields. Until now, neither of them had gotten married. Even though this village was near a forest, they did not lack anything. They grew their own vegetables, etc. If anyone fell ill, they would collect herbs from the village and prepare medicine. They treated every type of illness with their village's herbs because this village was in the jungle, and in the forest, one could find every type of herb. At night, many strange sounds of wild animals would come from the forest. Sometimes, in the daytime, some wild animal would wander toward the village, but upon seeing humans, it would run back into the forest. Amani lived alone in the house with her blind mother. When Amani's father was alive, he used to work as a farmer on Mosi's lands in that very village. Besides that, he would cut wood from the forest and go to the city to sell it. One day, while he was cutting a tree deep in the forest, the wood fell on him, and the poor man died right there. That is why all the household responsibilities fell on Amani's shoulders. Her mother was blind, and it was very difficult for Amani to do hard work, but what else could that poor girl do? She worked very hard to fulfill her household necessities. Amani was the most beautiful girl in her village. Because of her beauty, many boys in the village were after her, but she never even acknowledged any of them. Her blind mother had given her a Quranic education. Amani was very pious and God-fearing. Her mother had made her a hafiza of the Quran. Amani and Zuri worked together. Zuri's mother would insist that her daughter stay away from Amani. Her mother would say that a girl who is beautiful must have a bad character, she cannot be good. One day, both friends were working in the fields. Zuri noticed that there was a strange mark on Amani's neck. When Zuri asked Amani about this mark on her neck, Amani replied that it was nothing, trying to hide that mark. When Zuri went home, she told her mother that she had seen a strange mark on Amani's neck today. Her mother said to her daughter, "Haven't I told you many times not to talk to that girl? She's the most beautiful girl in the entire village. Who knows how many boys she must be involved with? Her mother is blind anyway. What does she know who comes and goes in her house? Even though she's a hafiza of the Quran. Haven't you seen nowadays how girls get lost in the world of novels? They spend all day reading novels, and thus make boys chase after them." Zuri said to her mother, "But mother, Amani has no novel with her," her mother said. "She herself is like a walking novel. Who can handle so much beauty? I've told you not to talk to her too much." Zuri began to think over her mother's words. Zuri decided that she would not talk too much with Amani anymore. Within just a few days, Amani seemed to have changed a lot. She was now always fearful and scared. There were many wild animals in the forest, but there was a part of the forest to which they could go during the day because wild animals rarely came there at that time. In that forest, there were many trees with fruits. Some people from the village would pick fruits from those trees. All kinds of herbs were also found there. There was a clear water spring and a very large well from which the villagers would drink water. I had seen several times that now Amani no longer came to that well to fetch water. One day, Amani said to Zuri, "My mother is ill. Please bring me some fruits from that tree. If she eats the fruit of that tree, she will get well." Zuri did not want to talk to Amani. Amani pleaded with her a lot, and eventually Zuri agreed. Zuri asked, "Why don't you go yourself?" Amani replied, "I am afraid to go there," Zuri said. "Earlier, we both used to go there many times to pick fruits." "Why are you afraid now?" Amani said. "I can't tell you that." Zuri got angry with Amani, thinking, "She has made me her servant. She could have gone just a few steps away to pick the fruits herself. She is so proud of her beauty that she wants to make everyone her slave. Besides, in our village, people do not marry by looking at the face. Whichever house a proposal comes from, that is where the marriage takes place. Amani's house doesn't have her father or a brother, only a blind mother. Now, the decision of her fate will be made by Mosi, because in this village, Mosi made the decisions. If a girl doesn't have a father or brother, Mosi decides her marriage. One day, the villagers started making noise that a dangerous bear had entered the village at night. However, it did not harm anyone in the village. It was seen near Amani's house, but no one thought too much about it. Everyone just said, "Thank God it didn't hurt anyone," but they wondered why it had come. For a long time, nothing like this had happened. Once or twice, wild animals had entered the village, but they were chased away. After that, for 3 or 4 years, nothing like this had happened. When morning came and Amani went to work, she looked quite strange, as if she had a high fever caused by some wound. Zuri noticed that Amani had a bandage on her arm. When Zuri asked Amani, "What happened to your arm?" Amani said, "Nothing." Zuri said, "If there was a problem, you shouldn't have come to work." Amani replied, "If I didn't come to work, what else could I do? You know my household situation." Suddenly, as they worked, the bandage on Amani's arm came loose. When Zuri saw the wound on Amani's arm, she was shocked. This wound looked like it was caused by the claws of a wild animal. Zuri asked in astonishment, "What happened to you?" Amani said, "It's just an injury." Zuri asked, "What caused this injury?" Amani said, "It just happened." It was clear that the marks were from an animal's claws because they looked like large nail marks. Large claws are found on wild bears. Then Zuri asked, "Yesterday a bear came into the village. Did it come to your house?" Amani angrily replied, "Why would it come to my house? Is it some kind of guest?" She seemed nervous and said, "You know I'm afraid of animals." Zuri, who had grown up with Amani and played with her since childhood, looked at her face and understood that there was definitely something Amani was hiding. Zuri said, "Amani, I think that wild animal attacked you." Amani replied, "If it had attacked me, I would have been dead by now." Zuri said, "Yesterday the bear came to your house. It attacked someone, and today that person is standing alive and well in front of me. Do you understand what that means?" Hearing this, Amani fell silent because she understood what Zuri meant. Then Amani said to Zuri, "If your mother sees you talking to me, she will scold you again and tell you to break off your friendship with me. And anyway, all these questions you are asking me now, you will tell them all to your mother. And your mother will make a spectacle of me in front of the whole village." Amani held Zuri's hand and said, "Don't tell anyone." She knew Zuri would not keep any of her secrets now. When Zuri returned home, she was about to tell her mother everything. But before Zuri could speak, her mother told her, "I have arranged your marriage with that certain young man." This village was not very large, everyone knew each other. Zuri tried to interrupt her mother, saying, "Mother, I have something very important to tell you." Her mother looked at her daughter in surprise. "Is everything okay?" Zuri told her mother the entire incident, and also told her that she had often seen strange marks on Amani's neck, arms and shoulders before, but she never told anyone anything. She was afraid of going into the forest. Hearing this, her mother said, "Until we have solid proof, we cannot accuse anyone. You know what happens if someone is falsely accused in this village? If someone accuses a person of wrongdoing and it is proven false, the accuser faces the same punishment. That's why making accusations is dangerous. Islam also punishes those who make false accusations." The next day, Zuri's mother secretly went to Mosi's house and told all this to Mosi's wife. Mosi's wife said, "Look, sister, before this matter reaches the men, you must keep an eye on her to be sure this is true." Several days passed, and then one morning, the whole village woke up to a terrifying sound, likely from a wild animal. The villagers rushed outside and saw Amani standing in the middle of the square. Her condition, her clothes, and the wounds on her body made it obvious what had happened to her. A woman said, "Oh, this is our village's Amani. Who has done such a thing to her? The boys of our village are not like this." Another woman said from behind, "This beautiful statue must have had some boy chasing her, and that led to this situation." Amani was very frightened and her condition was strange. There was terror in her eyes. A boy had brought her blind mother there, who could not walk on her own. Zuri's mother said, "When her mother is blind, the daughter will indulge in such mischief, right?" Everyone started to accuse her and taunt her. Another woman said, "Now there will be a spectacle in the village for a long time." Villagers watched such spectacles with great interest. In this village, any girl who did something immoral was given severe punishment. Now Amani was about to be punished. Although Amani was a hafiza of the Quran, people always consider someone bad if they cannot have that person themselves. Amani was a very good girl with a pure character. She never gave anyone any attention. Amani was about to say something when Mosey's wife said, "She is lying. We've heard that this happened many years ago. It has never happened in our lifetime." She said that the animal could not be trusted. Everyone said, "What proof do you have?" No one was willing to believe it. Everyone said that because of her beauty, she must have many boys after her. Meanwhile, an elderly, pious man, considered very noble in that village, was listening to all this. Amani said, "I have no proof other than the marks on my body. Look at these marks and see whose they might be." There were very deep marks on her arms as well. Mosey asked that pious elder, "You have more knowledge than us. By looking at these marks, can you tell whose marks they are?" The elderly man examined her wounds closely and said, "These are claw marks from a wild animal." Another man standing there, who had spent a lot of time in the jungle, said that he could tell in a minute which animal's marks these were. He stepped forward, looked at Amani's arm, and was amazed. He said, "These are the claw marks of a dangerous bear. This means the bear is in love with this girl. That's why it keeps coming after her." Now the matter had become very difficult. There was no one to save Amani or speak on her behalf. Everyone loved their own lives. If an animal falls in love with a girl, it will come back again and again. No one wanted a wild animal to keep returning to the village. Everyone had wives and children. No one was ready to help the girl. Everyone said, "How do we prevent this animal from returning to the village? Otherwise it might harm someone." Zuri asked her mother, "Mother, what will happen now?" Her mother replied, "Obviously, we must end the problem at its source. If that animal is coming for her, we must deal with her." When Mosi asked Amani, "Now I will ask you questions and you must answer truthfully. Do not lie. Tell me the truth." Amani wept and said, "The Quran is hidden in my heart, and I am a hafiza of the Quran. I cannot lie. I do not wish to swear on the Quran, but if you want me to swear, I can." Amani began to tell all the villagers, "Before, I used to pray tahajjud sometimes, not regularly. One day, I got up to pray tahajjud. I performed ablution and prayed tahajjud. After that, I saw there was still time for the Fajr Adiyan, so I started reciting the Quran. After reciting the Quran, I held my prayer beads and started pacing here and there. You people know the wall of our house is not very high. I saw something from a distance. At first, I thought it was a man. I stood near my wall, observing him closely as he walked toward our house. When he got closer, I realized it was not a man but a bear. As soon as I knew it was a bear, I let go of the wall and ran inside. But it did not chase me. I quietly watched it. I had never seen a wild animal so close before. When I looked closely, I saw that it kept shaking its hand as if searching for something. It was shaking its hand repeatedly, as if there was some problem with it. I realized that there was a big piece of iron stuck in its hand, causing it a lot of pain. I am not such an evil human that I could watch it suffer. I thought I should help it, but I was very scared. I also knew that if the villagers saw it, they would kill it immediately. At that time, I could not bear to see it in pain. I slowly approached the bear. The bear looked at me with strange eyes, but it did not try to attack me. I quickly pulled the piece of iron from its hand and then ran away. The bear sat there for 5 minutes staring at our wall. Then it made a strange sound and ran toward the forest. I was very happy that I had saved its life and done a good deed. I had no other feelings in my heart. I was amazed at myself for how I did all this. They say if a lion's belly is full, even if a goat passes by, it won't harm it. Perhaps the bear understood that I did not want to harm it, that I wanted to help it. I spent the whole day happy that I had helped the bear. But then, 2 weeks later, I saw it near our house again during the day. Similarly, a week later, it stayed at our doorstep at night. One day it attacked me. Although it did not fully attack me, I did get injured, and today, It did something very bad. It tried to take me away with it. It jumped over our wall and entered our house, dragged me, and tried to carry me over the wall. That is why I am in this condition today. When it entered our house, it seemed that it did not want to harm me. Previously, it had also tried to take me away. But today's attempt was much stronger. The man who lives in the forest was saying that he cannot understand how this animal came here. Such animals do not come into areas close to human habitation. If it is here, it won't be alone. Other animals might also be with it. Also, such animals should not be here at all. You people do not understand what I'm saying. Who knows if this is truly just an animal, or if there is something else going on? No one in the village paid attention to that man's words. Everyone said that the animal's repeated visits were not good. Children played openly in the village, and women went to work in the forests. They had to get rid of that animal. When Amani returned home, Mosi and the other villagers said, "If we remove the one the bear is coming after, then maybe we can solve this problem." One man said, "If we send this girl somewhere else, how will the bear know we've sent her away? It will come again and again looking for her. If it doesn't find her, it will enter homes and harm others, and the situation will get worse," everyone said. That's true. Now what should we do? Everyone discussed and offered their suggestions to each other. Then Mosi said, "If we give the bear what it wants, it will leave here forever. Nowadays, our village's situation is not good. The crops are not growing properly, the trees are bearing fewer fruits, and the vegetables are spoiling. The forest man said that we must give something back to the forest because we have been living off it. We get benefits from the forest and we get our food from there. The matter is not simple. From that forest, we get such materials that we sell to sustain our village. Only a few people knew this. That is why Mosi said we must now give something to the forest, some sacrifice, some gift. To save the entire village, we must give up this girl. Anyway, she is alone, without a father or brother, only a blind mother. We will not do anything bad to her. We will take good care of her. We must marry her to that bear. If we give the bear what it wants, it will take her and leave the forest forever, and it won't return. If we don't marry this girl to the bear, it could destroy our whole village. On top of that, who would marry a girl who is loved by a wild animal?" Hearing this, the elderly pious man stood up and said, "Where is such justice? Connecting a human with an animal, where is that written? You are committing an atrocity against this girl. You are risking her life to save your own. If you must do something, then kill this animal. If a wild animal goes mad, it is better to kill it. If you do this to the girl, something very bad will happen to all of you. The whole village could be punished. I beg you to have mercy on that girl." Mosi had that elderly man pushed out of his house. Then Mosi said to the people, "I have heard many stories where a girl was married to a dog or a horse as part of proper rituals. 20 years ago, a similar incident happened. A wild animal, a bear, fell in love with a girl and kept coming to the village. It made life impossible. Then they married that girl to the animal, and it never returned. If we do not do this, our village's condition will worsen. Our food supply is already low. We must marry her to the bear. After all, an animal that loves a human is more loyal than a human. After taking her away, everything will be fine," someone asked. "Will the girl agree to go with the animal?" Mosi said. "If she does not agree, we will force her. She is an orphan, has no father or brother. Her blind mother can do nothing. Anyway, I had to decide her marriage. The decision is made. The girl will be married to the bear. If an animal loves a girl, no man would marry her anyway." Hearing all this, Zuri felt very bad. These people were deciding Amani's fate as if she were an ordinary object they could hand over to anyone. Zuri angrily went home and said to her mother, "What was the need for you to tell all this to Mosi's wife? This matter is getting worse. I don't like what everyone is doing to Amani. Who knows what will happen to her now?" Zuri's mother said, "Whatever happens will be good for her. If giving one girl saves the entire village and has a good effect, what is one girl's worth? Many people leave this world. Besides, she is not dying, she is getting married. He's her lover, he will take care of her." Zuri said to her mother, "Didn't you hear what the forest man said? The bear doesn't live alone. If there are other animals with it, then sending her is like sending her to her death." And what does Mosi think? By giving one girl, the village will prosper. That's not how it works, mother. I have read many stories that doing bad to someone else never brings good for yourself. Her mother, silencing her, said, "Nothing can be done now. The matter has escalated. You will not talk about this anymore." Mosi and some villagers went to Amani's house and told her blind mother the whole story. Her mother, though blind, started screaming, "Don't do this cruelty to my daughter." She didn't know where Mosi was standing, but still, with folded hands, she said, "No, no, Mosi, you cannot do this to my daughter. I will not let you take my daughter anywhere." Mosi said, "This is the decision of all the villagers." Both mother and daughter knew that when the village made a decision, it had to be carried out. Now the entire village was after Amani. Mosi said, "A day has been fixed. In the morning we will dress her up and put her in the place where the bear comes again and again. When the bear arrives there, we will marry them, and it will take her away, ending the matter. Before that, everyone in the village will offer 2 nafil prayers of gratitude and pray, 'O Allah, we are giving a girl's sacrifice for our village in return. Have mercy on us.'" Zuri heard Mosi's words and muttered to herself that these ignorant people did not know what they were doing. Also, Amani's house was directly in front of the forest, not far from it. Perhaps that is why the bear kept coming in front of her house. Mosi's wife said to Zuri, "You will dress up your friend as a bride so that she looks even more beautiful. When the bear arrives, it will know that we are willingly giving her. Make sure Amani does not do anything foolish, or you will be held responsible." Zuri's mother was fully involved in this matter, so Mosi's wife gave this responsibility to Zuri. Zuri was astonished and sad. After a few days, the chosen day arrived. Early in the morning, Mosi came to Zuri's house and said, "Go and get that girl ready." When Zuri went to Amani's house, Amani sat motionless on a chair, like a statue. Zuri expected Amani to scold her and insult her. Zuri thought, "If she scolds me, I will remain silent, because something terrible is happening to her." But Amani said nothing. She let Zuri dress her up. She looked at Zuri with strange eyes, and Zuri became afraid of her gaze. In her heart, Zuri was thinking, "Amani, say something. Even if you insult me, at least my heart would feel lighter. Her silence is killing me. I feel as though her silence will ruin me. Her silence is consuming me. I feel as if her silence is wrapping around me." Zuri thought about her mother's animosity toward Amani. The people with whom her mother had arranged Zuri's marriage were once crazy about Amani's beauty. They wanted Amani's hand in marriage. Zuri's mother lied to them that Amani was not a good girl, that she was involved with some boy. Those people thanked Zuri's mother for saving them from Amani, and then asked for Zuri's hand, saying Zuri looked very decent. Zuri's mother, by telling a huge lie, arranged a good marriage prospect for her daughter. Zuri was shocked by her mother's actions. When Zuri had finished preparing Amani said something that shocked Zuri. "I know I will not return alive, and I know you will not fulfill what I am about to say. In this village, I have no one else to say this to. Take care of my mother. She is alone and blind. She will sit in one corner. Please give her food. Even if you cannot give her food every day, give it every 2 or 3 days so that her life may be spared." Amani said this plainly, without any pleading. There was not a single tear in her eyes. Hearing this, Zuri was torn. Tears came to Zuri's eyes. She thought, "Am I such a bad person that I wouldn't even feed her blind mother daily? No, I can at least feed her mother twice a day. How can I not feed a blind old woman?" Zuri wanted to say, "Don't worry, we will feed your mother daily and take care of her." But Amani did not listen to anything and walked out of the room. After that, the whole village gathered in one place, and they seated Amani where the bear usually appeared. All the villagers hid around that place to watch her. Amani sat there for 7 hours. Finally, the bear came. Mosi had warned Amani not to run away in fear, not to come back, because if she returned or tried to escape, they would throw her blind mother into the well, and still send Amani off with the bear by force, throwing her household items outside. Such threats can scare anyone. They assured her that they would take care of her mother. When the bear approached her, she sat there looking innocent. The bear sniffed her clothes, then smelled her feet and licked them. The hidden villagers were amazed that the bear did not harm the girl. After a while, the bear started pulling at her scarf. She stood up silently and began walking behind the bear. The bear walked alongside her. Once, Amani looked back. Her eyes were filled with tears and fear was on her face. Her mother, who could not see, was still screaming for her daughter's life, begging everyone. Mosi's wife had said that once Amani left, everything would be fine. The mother stumbled repeatedly, falling due to her blindness. Zuri tried to help her up, but her mother pushed Zuri away, wanting to run after her daughter. She did not know which way her daughter had gone. Seeing Amani's mother in such agony, Zuri's eyes also filled with tears. Zuri's mother came and said to Zuri, "Are you crazy? Why are you crying? What happened to that girl is not our problem. Don't you know what an animal can do to a girl?" Zuri's mother said, "Whatever an animal does is not our problem. Did you not hear Mosi saying that by doing this marriage the village would prosper? And now this matter is over." The villagers did not realize that Allah would show his displeasure so soon. The very next day, the old well from which the village drew water collapsed badly. That well was centuries old. God knows what natural sources fed that well, providing water for everyone. Now it had collapsed so severely that repairing it would cost more money than anyone had. Its depth was enormous, no one dared to go down. It seemed impossible to rebuild that well. Who knows who built it in the first place? Now the villagers tried to manage with water from springs and streams. They even tried to install pumps, but they stopped working after 2 days. The entire water system had failed. Everything was ruined. Still, no one thought about how this had suddenly happened. Nothing like this had ever happened in the village before. Now getting water was very difficult. People had to fetch water from a distant spring, and even then it wasn't enough. The person bringing water would be exhausted. Another week passed. Everyone said, "Amani will return," but she did not. This meant that she was no longer alive. How could she have survived so many days with a wild animal in the forest? Naturally, she must have left this world. That's why so many calamities were befalling the village. The biggest calamity fell upon Zuri herself. The reason her mother had done all this was to secure Zuri's marriage. But Allah did not accept this. The man to whom Zuri's mother had arranged her marriage suffered an accident while traveling to the city and left this world. Zuri's mother fell silent forever. One calamity after another befell the village. First, their water was cut off. Then their crops failed. Suddenly, a poisonous insect attacked and began devouring all the crops. They threw various poisons to kill it, but it continued to eat the crops. Everyone tried their own remedies, but to no avail. Other small problems also arose. Sometimes someone in a house would catch a dangerous illness, sometimes someone would die. Even Mosi's young son fell ill. The herbalist said that the cure for this illness was not available here, it had to be found abroad. Mosi, who could not leave the village, was secretly planning to take his son away. He couldn't send him alone because it was his only son. People gossiped that when hard times fell on the village, Mosi wanted to leave. Everyone was fighting among themselves. The biggest blow came when they learned that none of them actually owned the village land. All the village land belonged to the government, and since the village was near the forest, the government had decided to clear it out. Everyone was given notices to arrange their own accommodations within 3 months. All the villagers panicked. Some tried to use their connections and found out that a government officer could help them. He held authority over this matter. If they pleased him, maybe the matter could be settled. Soon he would come to inspect the area. The villagers decided they would show him great hospitality, keep him in the best house, and talk to him. Maybe he would give them some time to stay, or at least a few years reprieve so they could figure out what to do. Mosi had washed his hands of the matter, saying he had no power. He owned his house personally, but the rest of the village was not in anyone's name. The village held daily meetings to discuss the matter. A few days later, that officer arrived with his family. He had his wife and 2 servants, who carried a cage with a wild dog inside. The cage was covered with a black cloth. Some people whispered that now they would have to host the dog as well. Mosi offered his home for the officer's stay. A week passed since the officer's arrival. Mosi gathered the villagers and went to the officer's house. The officer was sitting in his lawn, drinking tea. That cage with the black cloth was beside him. He was a very handsome young man. The villagers presented their case to him. He had a few weapons with him for hunting wild animals. After hearing their pleas, he said, "I must do something for you." He told his servant, "Remove the cloth from the top of the cage." When the servant removed it, all the villagers were shocked to see that inside was the same bear with whom they had sent Amani. But how could this bear be the officer's pet? After a short while, the officer called his wife and said, "I can't understand anything. You tell the villagers what is to be done." When his wife removed her veil, everyone stepped back in astonishment. It was none other than Amani herself, wearing beautiful clothes and looking very lovely. The villagers had thought Amani was dead. Amani said, "Remove these villagers from this land. That is my decision." All the villagers said, "She is our daughter from our village. She will decide in our favor." The officer stood up angrily and said, "When you married her to a bear, was she your daughter then?" "I have heard everything. She told me the whole story." The officer said, "This bear is my pet. I had come to the forest to hunt wild animals. I had set up my camp near a hut, where that elderly pious man worshipped Allah. When I spoke to the elderly man, I learned that you people had also thrown him out of the village, because he spoke in favor of that girl. I stayed there for some days. One day I saw this girl coming behind the bear dressed as a bride. I was standing in front, watching silently. The girl looked terrified. She told me her entire story, and I was shocked. I was furious with all of you. Then I married this girl. Using my position, I sent you the notices to vacate the village because I realized you people are ignorant and cruel. You people showed no mercy to this girl or her blind mother, who begged in front of you. Think, if it were your own sister or daughter, would you do the same? Now your punishment is that you must leave this village. When you wander around homeless with your wives and children, you will understand. I will show no mercy." Amani took her mother with her. Her mother was very happy to find her daughter again. Now Amani was the wife of a very high-ranking officer, and the bear was his pet. He had sold the animal now for his wife's sake. He had brought the caged bear here, covered with a cloth, so that it could not see his wife again. Then the elderly pious man arrived and said, "An evil act always leads to a bad end. Look how good came to the one who endured injustice. How fortunate she turned out to be." The rest of the villagers were left weeping. Never do wrong to a helpless person who has no one but Allah. If such a person cries out your name before Allah, handing their matter over to him, Allah never forgives the oppressor. Astaghfirullah. Friends, I hope you learned something from today's story. Do not forget to share it with your friends and family. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and become part of our family. Thank you.